friends. So one of the things that kept coming up on discussion today was people needing to do the perfected smile line. And so I thought I'd just share with you how I do it in my shop. So the first thing we got to do is make you some sort of a practice finger. And so I do that using tips. And what I do is I take a file, and I want my smile lines on my nail clients to be deeper than that. Like that's almost, I mean, it's okay, but I want it more than that. So I take another file and I hold it, I don't know, is this vertical? And file that well to get you a more extreme practice smile line. You can do this if you're doing this like with French tips and you want more of an extreme smile line. This is how we used to do it way back in the day, is play around like this. But this just gives you a good practice line for smile lines. So get all the excess off. Then what I do is I take a brush, just like a nail art brush, with a little bit of acetone, and just melt off those extra pieces to get me a nice crisp line to learn from. You know, they always say practice, practice, practice. Well, sometimes we have to make our practice displays ourselves. Okay, so now I have a little bit more of an extreme smile line that I can practice with. As you can tell, it would be a lot more flattering as it goes up on the side. So as that natural nail grows out, it's going to cover to where you don't get a Napoleon look like 2 weeks later. So then for me, what I do is I take this, I take a dollop of acrylic and I put it on like an old emery board I just want to get rid of, or you can use an orange wood stick or whatnot, or you can use a tacky stuff, but I just take an old bead of acrylic, stick it onto the file, and allow it to dry. And now I have a practice finger that I can put in and out of the light. I can toss it. I'm using up products that I have. So I've already filed this one to get me the extreme line. You can also use, like these are some stiletto tips that I had that I wanted to get rid of. And so the same thing, I just sat there and filed until I got the smile line the way that I wanted. Took acetone, kind of smoothed it out, and you can affix that to an emery board, which here is the after of both of those. So now we have a practice finger with a smile line that's a little bit more of what we want to achieve onto the nail. And of course you can go more extreme or less extreme, whatever it is that you want to work with your clients. For this case, because everything's already on white, I'm going to use a color so that you can see how to do this with color. And this is using gel polish. Obviously you would have your base coat or your finished nail there. With gel polish, what you want to do is get your dollop of most of your paint below where you're going to put in your smile line. Then you're going to work it to where you can fan those bristles out and then push it up to where your smile line's going to be, and then drag that down. Then you can come around. Being that we have that smile line preformed, we can understand what angle we need to hold our brush to be able to do this with the brush. Push it up and drag it down. Of course, the sidewalls are always the hardest, trying to perfect it and getting it up in there, but practice, practice, practice. Start a little bit low where you want it, push the gel up, drag it down. Push it up and drag down. Always go back over your gel polish again just to smooth it out. And gel polish is meant to be done thin layers. You might not get it accomplished in one layer. It might take 2 to get your perfect white, or whatever color you're using for that to happen. So that's a good way of practicing, is like this. And of course, what you would do is I use makeup wedges. So you take a makeup wedge and some rubbing alcohol and wipe that off and just keep reusing this. Make a little bit of a mess. Wipe that off, practice again, practice, practice, practice. Another way of what you could do is, so I'll use this one because it's more opaque. You can take a pencil and you can draw on the tip, where you want your smile line to be. So I want my center to be here. You can draw it up to be the curvature of what you want, if you want it more of a chevron or an extreme. And then there would be your new smile line. So now you would take your product, put your dollop down, fan out your bristles, push it up to where that peak is, and drag it down. Push it up, drag it down. Even on a nail that you're working on a client, use your pencil, create yourself a guideline. They're going to see that you're trying to perfect it and make it your best, and they're only going to appreciate that. Your gel polish will cover up that pencil line. Go back over it more than once so it can level itself out. Now you can see we can get more of an extreme look. Sometimes on the sides what I do is I'll take a dollop of my paint, put it on a piece of glass or a tile, and then I take a dotting tool or a fine brush, get a little bit of paint on there, and then bring it up onto the side so they can get that crisp edge that I want. You know, all the tricks to the trade. And bring that down. And as soon as you're happy with it, then obviously you'd set down the light. But this is a practice finger, so I can constantly come in, wipe all that back off, and start all over again. So as we said before, it just takes a lot of practice, and you have to find what your niche is for it. Okay, so once you get to where, that doesn't want to come off. So once you get to where you're comfortable, then instead of filing out that well, now I have a full tip on. I haven't filed out the well. I'm not going to use a pencil on there. Put your big dollop down where you want it. Fan out your bristles, push it up to where the smile line would begin and drag that down. You get to where you have a system, and then it becomes a lot easier. And especially when you're working on a client, you're trying to have conversation, you're trying to not shake and have it perfected. Then you have a smile line. So let's make this one not perfect. Here's another way of doing whites. I like to use an acrylic brush. I actually have a brush that I use just for this. This is just an 8 flat oval, and I only use this for this purpose. Gel polish, you can thin out using alcohol. So don't use acetone at this point, use alcohol. Put it on your brush. Start up on one end, and it's almost like carving out your smile line. This too takes time to perfect, but when you have a good, nice brush like an acrylic brush is, you can get some smooth lines. And then, so you can see how it's high up on one side versus the other. But I want those crisp sidewalls. Then I'm going to come in with my dotting tool and my gel polish, and I'm going to even up this side. It's like troubleshooting. There's so many ways you can get a perfected smile line, but these are the ways that I do mine. So I hope this helps you be able to go to the next level with that. Now, for added fun, once you get your smile line on there, you know that you can, on gel polish while it's still wet. If you've seen any of my color blocking videos, you know that I do this a lot. Take your glitter while this is still wet. Now this gives you a glittery French. Sprinkle on into the wet gel polish, tap off the excess, and set that in the light. Here, I'll just go ahead and set it and show you. I love this glitter. It's from Elegant Glass, and it's just a white shimmer. So if you have a French and they want it glittery, this is perfect to go over white and give you that beautiful French look. Okay, so at this point I can take a brush. It's my day off, guys. I don't even have one in the drawer. So just for the sake of this, I'm going to use that sponge. I'm going to wipe off the excess glitter. And see that smile line? Let me wipe off more. The smile line is just that perfect crisp line. Then you would take, I use base coat because base coat can be layered on top of each other and encapsulate that glitter. But instead of, if I went to that exact same line again, from the side view, the client's gonna have a little bit of a ridge there. So to take away that ridge, go higher up, past that, and then drag and work the gel polish in between those glitter layers so that you can encapsulate the glitter completely. Make sure to encapsulate the sides. All the way down to your free edge. Allow it to set for a moment. Sometimes we work with gel polish too fast. Allow it to settle into the glitter, and then you'll cure that. Okay, so I want to troubleshoot another one. So there was another post the other day where the girl did her French, but then you could see where her tip line was. And some people made comments that you needed to blend the tip in more, which sometimes overfiles on the nail. So a lot of times you can use some sort of a cover pink. Here's what I like to do. One of my favorite goes to is like Bubble Bath from OPI. And I use this as my cover pink. I'll do a layer of this first. Once again, I always put a dollop down first before so in this case, I'd be pushing it to the cuticle. Put my dollop down, fan out my bristles to where the cuticle would be, and drag it down. This gives the natural nail a little bit of a cloudiness, or like a cover pink would be, but also just disguises any light imperfections. And obviously you could do one coat or two. Go over it to definitely allow it to level itself out. Wait a moment. Don't work with your gel polish too fast. And see how instantly, it's still sheer, but it just covers up what might be any imperfections on the nail. And then you'll allow that to cure. So there's the one that I did earlier. And from here you could add more nail art to it if you want. Or you could just top coat it and then this one would be done. So you just went from your simple French to more of an advanced French smile line. Okay, so I cured the Bubble Bath. Now I'm going to come in with white. And this is where that practice comes in. I'm not going to draw a line on the nail, but I am going to dollop where I want my bigger portion of my gel to be. Dollop it on there, fan out my bristles, push it up to where the smile line will begin, and drag that down. Push it up, drag it down. And you'll get to where you're going to know exactly how to angle your brush to get the type of smile line you want. I don't do a really extreme one on my clients, but I do make it a little bit more curved than a straight line. And then work your gel back and forth so that it can self-level across the nail. Like I can say I really do like the D&D gels. That's a nice one coat. I could just keep this with one coat. Sometimes I'll do two. And then once again, if you want to make it a little bit more extreme, take your dotting tool, dip it in your paint, bring it up on the sides wherever you'd want. And then cure that in the light for its complete time. So I hope that helps you create the perfect smile lines. It does take practice and it does take time, but it's worth it. And there's lots of things that you can use with just the items sitting around at the salon. Bring them out and play and make them work for you.